Imagine reaching the absolute limit of modern life. A man, exhausted and disillusioned by a toxic world, fled into the dark jungles of Guyana to escape it all, eventually finding himself at the end of his rope. He makes a massive leap in 1954, washing ashore halfway across the world in Pondicherry, India, searching for something better. He expects to find truth. Instead, he finds organized ritual, immaculate white clothes, religious effigies, and heavy clouds of burning incense. Disgusted, he immediately plots his escape to the isolation of the Himalayas. To him, this ashram is merely another flavor of the same societal prison he was trying to leave behind. Whether it is civilized logic or spiritual piousness, human behavior often looks like the habitual mask of a highly functioning ape. Fleeing into the jungle or isolating on a mountain peak solves nothing. A cage made of concrete and a cage made of spiritual dogma both serve to trap the exact same animal. Yet, despite his urge to run, he stays for 19 years. He stays because of a fragile 76-year-old woman known only as Mother. As a fierce heretic, she spent her days actively fighting her own disciples and their obsession with spiritual hierarchy. Her philosophy is blunt. She tells her followers that the desire to worship is born from laziness. It is an excuse to avoid the hard work of actually changing themselves. She sits alone in the middle of a crowded ashram, conducting a covert experiment to break the physical boundaries of the human species. Her true mission was a physiological revolution. The true magnitude of this experiment comes to light years later. At age 83, she pulls him aside and confesses that every spiritual summit she has ever reached is a perfect illusion. Realizing that the material world is an illusion is a standard milestone in mysticism. But for Mother, traditional spirituality itself had become a secondary trap. She introduces a path called the Yoga of Matter. This discipline only begins exactly where all ancient traditions of meditation leave off. The goal isn't to let the soul escape to a spiritual heaven. Instead, the focus drives downward, forcing divine reality directly into living physical tissue. True liberation requires diving straight into the body to conquer its biological constraints. She poses a baffling question to her students. Are you conscious of your cells? She targets the very bedrock of human biology. To her, the human experience, getting hungry, falling ill, and aging, is not an absolute scientific law. It is merely a deeply ingrained genetic habit we have repeated for millions of years. Her method involves pulling down a specific energy, a supramental light, to scrub away that millennial programming, aiming for a physical body entirely free from its animal layers. She even claims that a state of divine joy, called Ananda, had briefly descended in 1954, possessing the power to alter the physical density of the human body. But the people surrounding her and the earth itself were completely unready. They were too trapped in bickering and petty human dramas to absorb this frequency. Humanity's stubborn, unconscious addiction to suffering and mundane habits creates a barrier that scientific knowledge alone cannot bridge. We see exactly how brutal this biological reprogramming is through Sat Prem's own writings. In the spring of 1955, his letters to Mother show a man buckling under the pressure of the process. He writes about feeling suffocated. Desperate, he begs for permission to retreat to a quiet hillside town in the Himalayas, hoping that escaping the world will cure the agonizing grind of his own nature. Mother replies with patience. She allows him the retreat to break his hardened outer shell, but she reminds him that the work must ultimately stay grounded in the physical world. The path to a new species is not achieved through blissful meditation, but through a war fought in the trenches of daily interaction. This leads to the tragedy of Mother's final years. Her followers isolated her, treating her like a spiritual superdirector, while they established the ownership of a brand new religion. They effectively entombed her in reverence, preferring the ease of worship over the agonizing work of evolving themselves. But the record of her true work survives. It spans 13 massive volumes, collectively known as Mother's Agenda. It is not a religious text. These pages are the raw laboratory notes of the first attempt to cross into a new species. Here, economic and political structures fall away, replaced by the reality of a changing biological cell. Conscious control of physical matter is the final frontier, our liberation.